The Japanese began to immigrate to the United States in the late 1800s. In the beginning, they worked on the railroads and labored on farms. With time, the Japanese immigrants became successful and even started businesses. They hoped to assimilate and be accepted as Americans, so they encouraged their children to study Western classical music. Eventually, Japanese immigrants became music teachers, organized student recitals, and formed orchestral groups. But this all ended on December 7th, 1941.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
After the attack on Pearl Harbor, over 2,400 Americans lay dead. That night, after the Pearl Harbor attack, the FBI arrested Japanese community leaders, including Buddhist priests and Japanese school teachers. Altogether, 736 Japanese men were hauled off and detained. There were no charges brought against them, and they were not given access to attorneys. Most were imprisoned for the duration of the war. Soon after, newspapers and magazines were filled with anti-Japanese war propaganda and hatred against the Japanese. This hate quickly spread throughout communities all over America. Lieutenant General John DeWitt, commander of the Western Defense, stated,
"The Japanese race is an enemy race. Along the vital Pacific coast, over 112,000 potential enemies of Japanese extraction are at large today."
In February 1942, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which designated areas along the West Coast as military zones. This gave General DeWitt the authority to remove all persons of Japanese ancestry from the West Coast. The Japanese had only 1 week to pack up all their belongings, including selling their homes and closing up their businesses.
Everybody sold everything, My piano like that. It came with a little children, and about 6 or 7 years old girl. "I like this piano." And then the father said, "Okay." And then sell me. So I said, "No, I want to take to with my husband's equipment. Piano is a store at the Bakings." And then an hour later, he came with a moving truck. Mover brought it and took the piano and then left the $25.
He just stole it then.
They were forcibly taken by trains, buses, and trucks. They were moved to the relocation centers, where they were placed behind barbed wire and watched by armed guards. Most camps were in the desert, with very hot temperatures and frequent dust storms. They were forced to live in crowded army barracks, with little room and no privacy. Due to these harsh conditions, 1,862 Japanese died in the camps, with the risk of dying of heart attacks double that of the general population. In order to provide some relief from the hardships of camp life, the War Relocation Authority established and funded music departments in each camp. Their aim was to encourage and support Western classical music in order to Americanize the Japanese. They offered music appreciation classes, during which classical music records were played to Japanese audiences. They also instituted music instruction in the camp schools, where students joined school bands, orchestras, and choirs. Music lessons in piano, violin, voice, and other instruments were also offered. However, serious music students frequently encountered obstacles, such as a lack of pianos or no space to practice. For many, classical music provided a diversion from the grim realities of camp life, a means of mental healing, and a way of maintaining hope. Tomio Yagura was a music teacher at Butte High School who taught many students and encouraged them to pursue their musical studies. Overcoming their many challenges provided these students the foundation for their extraordinary accomplishments after camp. These students included classmates Simon Sato and Arthur Sasahara. Both Arthur and Simon performed in their school orchestras and gave recitals at Gila. Arthur stated that, in the camp,
I practiced very little on my own. The rooms were 20 by 25 feet. There was always someone in the room. It would drive people crazy practicing violin.
After Gila, Simon attended the College of Worcester and then went to medical school at Western Reserve University. He first worked on an Indian reservation and then spent many years as a medical missionary in India. Arthur was drafted into the army after Gila and then attended Oberlin College. He also studied medicine at Western Reserve University. He became an internationally known pioneer in the research of pulmonary embolism or blood clots in the lung and developed clot-busting medications. He wrote over 300 scientific papers and 6 books and was a professor of medicine at Harvard for over 40 years. Before Gila, Yagura had a violin student at Santa Anita named Teddy Kanamine. From Santa Anita, Teddy was sent to camp in Jerome, Arkansas, where he performed in many concerts. After the camps, his family moved to Omaha, Nebraska, where Teddy continued to play violin. He was also active in sports and became a state swimming champion. He studied criminal psychology and law at the University of Nebraska. He was called to active duty in 1955 and was promoted to Brigadier General in 1976, receiving the Distinguished Service Medal in 1981. He became the first Japanese-American general in the Army. At Gila, Tomio Yagura frequently collaborated with piano students Minako Sasahara and John Fuyume. Minako, or Minnie, and John were classmates at the Butte High School. There was only one piano in the camp.
I think it forced both of us to focus a little bit more seriously on how we practiced, when we practiced, but we did the best we could.
John performed solo recitals at Gila and then left to enroll at Eastman Music Conservatory. After graduation, he continued to perform piano but went to work at Seabrook Farms. He held several management jobs before moving to other executive positions. He later founded the Seabrook Educational and Cultural Center and received the Order of the Rising Sun from the Japanese government for his contributions for preserving and promoting the history and culture of Japanese Americans. Minnie Sasahara also performed in solo recitals at Gila Camp. In 1943, she left to attend the Oberlin Music Conservatory. She became a piano instructor at Bradford College in Boston and frequently performed with Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops Orchestra. She later became a piano teacher at Carnegie Mellon University. At the age of 50, she entered law school at the University of Pittsburgh and then worked for 18 years as a legal aid lawyer for underprivileged children. She was recognized by the city of Pittsburgh for her many contributions and achievements.
Everybody that was there was taking it in stride, so there wasn't a lot of hard feelings or regret or any of that kind of stuff. Everybody did what they were supposed to do, and I guess that's the Japanese heritage of come on, shikatanai, you can't help, can't be helped. So they did it in a very positive way.
During World War II, Japanese Americans were forced to endure many tragic experiences. Classical music in the camps brought out the resilience and strength of the musicians and enabled them to overcome extreme hardships. They became exemplary Americans who monumentally impacted others, enabling them to triumph over the tragedies of the war.